All right, welcome back to the Surfside Recovery Podcast. We got a couple of different user-submitted topics, but before we get to the topics, please, if you're enjoying our videos, if you could share them on your Facebook page, maybe give us a follow on our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter, anything like that. And, I'll make sure I have all of our handles below on the screen right now. So I was actually at a meeting, I don't know, probably a couple...
Shouldn't we do our normal intro?
What?
Where you say,
oh, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that
thing and the X amount of episodes and
no, because you said you didn't want to number the episodes in case we rearrange them a little bit. Anyway, what I was saying was that we got some user submitted topics, and the one we wanted to discuss today is having fun in recovery or in sobriety. Because I know, like I thought it was over. I didn't think I was gonna have fun anymore. And something I was thinking about today, the worst group in rehab was always the fun in sobriety group. Didn't you have one of those?
No. Don't even get me started. I'll also say, before we jump into this, we've had a bunch of people kind of reach out and just give us some like personal messages about, hey, thank you for the podcast. You've helped us, et cetera, et cetera. Please note we are paying attention to that stuff. And if you guys do need help, if there are people out there that are struggling and want some advice or some tips, please don't hesitate to reach out. Everything would be confidential.
It makes it worthwhile. I really like getting those like Facebook messages and text messages and stuff like that. I got one from a friend of mine that I haven't talked to in probably 10 years. And he reached out and said he was struggling a little bit, but it was good. It's good to hear that kind of stuff.
I talked to a guy, we talked for a while about him being on Suboxone
for
a long time, and he can't get off. He just can't get off of it. And then a medical doctor actually reached out, which this is sidebar. This is what I meant by the normal intro.
Right. Okay.
You were like ready to do this. Fun.
I was
he
going
wants
for
to
it.
have fun in sobriety.
Yeah,
That's what's really going on.
I was going for it.
But a medical doctor who reached out and was talking about Suboxone, and apparently, fun fact, that depending on the research, 1 milligram of Suboxone is equivalent to anywhere from 12.5 to 20 milligrams of oxycodone.
What do you mean, like the way it works on your brain chemistry?
Like detox wise, right? So if you're
detoxing,
let's say you're taking 2 milligrams of Suboxone every day, that would be like detoxing from 30 milligrams of oxy a day.
Oh.
Which is why it's so difficult to get off, even though, and we talked about it in that article and everything that we posted about, doctors saying that it's not hard to get off of.
It's the worst.
Is actually
it's the worst.
Not the truth. So.
Speaking from a purely personal experience, it's the worst. I'd be interested to read an article that has something to say about that.
I can forward you the email that she sent me.
Cool. We'll post it up on our. If there is it,
should I read it real quick?
Yeah. Go ahead, bust it out. So was it something that she wrote, or was it like in a medical journal or something like that?
No.
I feel like every other podcast we're talking about Suboxone in some way, shape, or form.
I'm not going to read it. It's long.
Right.
We should do another episode on it.
All right, take that.
But basically, the part specifically was that 1 milligram of buprenorphine is equal to 12.5 to 25 milligrams of oxycodone, depending. I just declined a call for all you people who don't like me on my phone.
He's so salty about that.
Buprenorphine withdrawal can be brutal. This is especially true after many years of use. There is no well thought out exit strategy, and this is coming from a medical doctor,
right?
That is actually she agrees with me on it, which is that it can be very useful. It has to be managed very appropriately.
Right.
It's not being managed appropriately. That's ultimately her argument. Is not that it's bad, but it's not managed appropriately.
Right.
So anyway. Fun and sobriety.
What do you do for fun? This is fun for me. What we're doing right now. Anything that has to do with any sort of video, pictures, recording, are the things that I do to have fun now. And it was something that I started out pretty strong in when I was in high school. Whoa, Ian's breaking stuff.
Well, whoever set this up.
Screw the thing in at the bottom. So what I was saying before Ian made a bunch of racket is that I got into television and film when I was a freshman in high school. There's a cool story behind it. It's because the bottom of the table isn't flat.
That's my wife's fault.
Yeah, well. But anyway, so I got into television and film and stuff in high school, and I kind of went gung-ho, and then I started using and stopped doing it. It was like a classic, I had internships. I was working for MLB.com. I worked for some multimedia companies down in DC, and then finally got back into it. So I know you do all sorts of outdoor, anything really outside, right?
Yeah, I for those of you who want to know the real behind the scenes, Brian emails me or calls me every day basically and says, "Are we podcasting this week?" This is the highlight of his week. And then he gets here and he sets everything up, and I proceed to get caught up on phone calls and text messages and emails for at least a half hour.
That's exactly what happens.
Until we sit down. But he gets to sit here and he tweaks his equipment. So I give him that extra time to have fun.
Yeah.
It's Friday.
Yep.
I don't know. I recently came to the conclusion that I like to work. That I actually do enjoy work.
Which I think is great. I mean, I work for you to do this, so it's great when you can blend in things you like to do with work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like to kite surf. I like to surf. I like to hike. I like to do CrossFit. I like to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
Not. I get so drained from the workday that I don't really like to be around people. Obviously spending time with my wives and Charlie and Wilma, things like that. But
it sounded like you said wives.
Wives, my wives.
It did through the headphones. I was like, it took me a second. I don't know. You might have said wives. Yes, one.
I had a nightmare last night.
Uh-huh.
Like I had the type of nightmare that I have not had in years. Like was afraid to go back to sleep.
Really?
Like woke my wife up going,
do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was so bizarre. Long story short, a local girl in AA had moved.
Mm-hmm.
She moved. We helped her. Me and Alyssa helped her move.
Right.
But then we wanted her apartment, so we took her apartment and we moved her into our apartment. But she was living above someone that she was didn't want to live above, and it was this witch lady. And the lady called her, and I was like, well, I'll go and distract her. So I went downstairs to distract her, even though the lady knew she was upstairs. Doesn't really make any sense. And the part that was so terrifying is the lady turned around and looked at me while she was on the phone, and it was terrifying.
Really?
Absolutely.
Was her face all mangled or something like that? No. It was just you were just scared?
I have no idea. Huh. And it was terrifying. And it was, I don't know what was happening in that dream, but it was so scary. I literally said to Alyssa, I was like, I'm afraid to go back to sleep.
Yeah, it sucks when you have dreams like that. I mean, I
haven't had a dream like that. I can't tell you when the last time.
Right. Yeah, I haven't had one in a while, but yeah, they're weird, especially when you get freaked out like that, and everything's so bizarre, and you just snap back into reality, and you just.
Well, it's kind of in terms of recovery. People I sponsor, people will talk about using dreams,
right?
And I always say they're kind of like freebies.
Mm-hmm.
You unfortunately get the drama without actually having the drama.
I had one where. I think I was living in the house, and you and Jared were I picked up dope somewhere, and you and Jared were chasing me along these beach dunes. This is probably a year and a half or 2 years ago.
That's something I would do.
Yeah, I know. So, but when I woke up, I was just because I was freaked out for a second because I thought I relapsed, and then I look around and I'm in the house. I'm ah. And then obviously, I realized it was a dream. But it's scary when you first wake up from that. You're like, whoa.
And it is kind of nice when you realize wow, that's actually what it would be like. Have that experience without having the experience. So back to fun and recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Nightmares are not fun and recovery. Yeah, I think the thing with a lot of folks when they get sober is they don't know what they like.
Right.
You know, kite surfing was one of those things where I saw somebody doing it, and I was with somebody that I was helping with the 12-step program, and we were on Lake Champlain. We were sitting like on the beach on Lake Champlain, and they were off in the distance, the kites. And I said, "Oh, what are those?" And he said, "Oh, it looks like they're kiteboarding." And I was like, "I don't know what that is." So we went back to my place when we were done what we were doing, and he showed me on YouTube like these crash videos of people like getting like hucked in the buildings. And I was like, "Oh,
really?
My God, I'm learning how to do that." Like,
so it's like all the wipeouts is what sold you on the sport.
Oh yeah, like I wanted to like fly, and yeah, and you know, and the cool thing is I was maybe, I don't know, we'll say 4 years sober or something like that, and because I was still I think I was in grad school at the time. It was one of those things where like, if I was using, there was no way that was going to happen.
Right.
You know, like I actually said that a group, myself, Brian actually was along, and maybe like 8 residents from Surfside, one of our other staff. We were all down in the Outer Banks last week. And I think we were having a meeting, or I don't know what we were doing, but I shared, and I basically said, like, I'm abundantly clear. Like it is overwhelmingly clear that like going to the Outer Banks and surfing all week is something that would have never happened if I was using.
Oh yeah, not at all.
Like no shot.
Not at all. I mean, I it's funny, as my addiction progressed, the closer and closer I moved to the city. And at the end I was living in the city. So it was like it wasn't going anywhere.
Your world becomes so small.
Yeah, and I would just get closer and closer and closer to the projects until I lived in the projects, and that's kind of where it stayed. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't do anything. Like I always remark to people when I hear people talking about going to music festivals and getting tattoos when they were using. I'm like, where did you get that extra money, or even like want to travel 300 miles while you were using? Like that wasn't how I used. It was close, and I stayed.
So I did a lot of the music festival thing. Tattoos were not possible at the time, but the music festival thing was.
Did you have any before you got sober? Any tattoos?
One. Small one. But the music festival thing for me was like more of a job, because I would always take substances to sell.
Right. Yeah.
So I get that. I would make.
I get that.
You know, my money at the festival.
Right.
But yeah, I think the cool thing, like, you know, like a bunch of you guys like playing spike ball. Yeah. You know, like you guys like die for like the beach weather to come so you can play spike ball.
Yep.
And it gets like super aggressive.
We were loving it. And what I've liked is having stuck around for a little while, like every new summer, I get to show more people the game, because a lot of people haven't played it before. Yeah. Like I never even heard of it before I moved down here.
And it was a whim. I was at, that's how that's all happened. I was over at Dick's Sporting Goods looking to get, I don't even know, I think like a new volleyball or something for the house. And I was just like nosying through, like, you know, because every year they have these new games.
Right.
I was just kind of nosying through. I was like, oh, this is pretty cheap and looks like it might be interesting. And that was that.
Yeah. And then we took off with it. Jordan,
one of our past residents, Jordan, became a sponsored spike ball representative.
He's an ambassador.
That's what he is.
But I also like, you know, me and my roommate bought a ping pong table maybe a month and a half ago. And last weekend, one of our alumni who moved down to Delaware came back up, and we had like 10 people over my apartment playing ping pong. We just had like a tournament. We're just like rolling through.
Yeah, so we're putting one in the Dorset house.
I asked him like 6 times to put one into that house.
In the Dorset house?
Yeah.
Look, I've asked for the measurements like 600 times.
You never.
I needed someone to measure. Well, finally, Benny Boy decided to measure.
Oh, he did it?
And yeah, we're good. So
he's gonna have some home court advantage on me.
That's his like. Well, you live down the street. You'll be over there every night. Are you kidding?
Yeah. So we've even like geeked out super hard with it. Like me, my roommate, and Ben, we've all bought like special paddles. You know?
Really?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Recently?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about buying another one now. The first paddle I bought off of Amazon was actually a fake. It was like shipped over from China. So I had to return it. Bought another one from Walmart. And now there's another company, I think they're German or Swedish. and they make this nice paddle, and it's like $70. But I feel totally confident in dropping $70 on a ping pong paddle. It sounds ridiculous, but it can take up a whole afternoon. You know, you get a couple guys over, I put a pot of coffee on, and we just play ping pong for hours at a time. It's awesome. What is that? Oh, live video? Hey.
Ben, we're talking about your ping pong excursion, so it's going on the podcast, and you have to be 100% accountable in making sure it happens.
Are you sending that directly to him?
Yeah. What's his thing? What's his handle?
I'm not sure. I would have to look at my phone. I don't know.
Well, we're
we're
gonna send this directly to Ben.
Yeah.
And make sure he actually gets it.
So
Makes it happen.
One of the things that I thought was important, like when I got sober, they're always telling you need to get hobbies, you need to do this, and you need to do that. And after like years and years of addiction, I didn't really know what I had. I mean, you said it in the beginning that I didn't really know. I didn't know what I was into. And actually, my buddy who we have like a side business doing videos and stuff like that. We always say that
Seastone Media.
Yeah.
If you're looking for, some quality video for a store or whatever you may be working at, check out Seastone Video.
SeastoneMediaNJ.com.
That's what you should check out.
Quick little plug. But we always kind of joke around that the addict brain of obsessive and compulsive is beautifully built to do video production because
and sports for that matter.
Yeah.
Like anything that's like regimented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sports definitely. But for us, like the process when I'm like looking at like a timeline in the editing project, I will just go through and go through and go through and go through and go through. And then I eventually have to stop. Like after, like if I edit 3 or 4 podcasts in a row, I have to put it away and like not look at it again. Or even with the video from Cape Hatteras is going to come out. What's the date of this Friday? The 3rd? What's today? The 2nd? So the 3rd. So the 10th, the Cape Hatteras video is going to come out. And I had to stop and put it down a couple times because I watched it so many times. My eyes were like playing tricks on me.
Yeah.
But that's how you get good at it. So, I mean, I don't really think it matters what kind of hobby you have. You just have to try stuff. And part of the program at Surfside was you had to try different sorts of activities like that.
Yeah, it's why we do that stuff. Like, and it's really a shame that, so many young adults get out of treatment and, they link up with the guys that they think are cool.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens to be the guys that are close to them, and nobody wants to try anything. Nobody wants to do anything because it's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
They like, it's not the word they use. They use a different word, but basically it's like, it's stupid. That's stupid. And it's really sad. Like I'm really lucky. Like I got sober in Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
It was the ski season. I snowboard, you know what I mean? So like I by default met guys who were sober, who were snowboarding.
Right.
They were active. They also did like a bunch of other stuff like wakeboarding and so I just got really lucky and got linked up with them, going to the gym, that type of stuff.
I think the whole CrossFit thing you guys do is cool too. I mean, I'm not a gym guy, but I can kind of respect the fact that there's like the team atmosphere.
You should come. Why don't you try it? Why not?
I've never really worked out.
That's newcomer thinking right there.
You want me to come one time?
Yeah, you're like,
this is what he does. He bullies people into coming to CrossFit.
That's the truth. You're like, oh, I think that's kind of cool. So I'm like, oh, why don't you try it? You're like, oh, well, I don't know.
I'm not a gym guy. I've gone to the gym over periods of time throughout my life and not liked it.
You like sports? Do you like sports?
Not really.
You like basketball?
Basketball's okay.
You like spike ball?
Spike ball.
All right, so why don't you try it?
Ping pong? They're not the same at all. Lifting weights.
But it's a sport.
All right. I don't know. Maybe one of these weekends I'll give it a shot. What I did like, though, I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a little while.
Yeah.
And
oh, yeah, you like that. That's hard work.
Yeah. No, I'm not opposed to hard work at all. It's just like anything with lifting weights.
It's a sport, and that's what you need to understand. So when I started CrossFit, I thought it was lifting weights.
Yeah, how did you get into it?
My wife.
Oh, she started getting into it? And who got her into it?
You always say when I say my wife?
My wife. Little Borat. How did she get into it? One of her friends or something like that?
So my wife loves getting gym memberships. She like collects them like hobbies. Like trading cards.
It's pretty funny.
And she whatever, had a bunch of different places, would go once or twice a week, tell me that she was going all the time. Like, when she would say like, oh, I went every day this week, like she like really thought she was going every day this week.
Right.
I love you, Alyssa.
It's okay. I'll try to blur it out a little bit. Who's that, Wilma?
It's Wilma.
Yeah, she's upset that you're talking smack about Alyssa right now.
Probably. Why don't you shut the door?
All right. Go ahead, keep talking. Tell your story.
So basically, whatever. Alyssa was going to the. I'm super distracted. What is she barking at?
What are you doing? Come on.
All right. Now that she'll come in, she'll stop. Come here, Wilma. Wilma, come here. Come on. All right. So, whatever. Surfside had become so prior to Surfside, I was kiteboarding roughly 120 to 180 days a year.
Yeah, it's awesome. When I lived out west, I was on the mountain like 130 days. Yeah,
all the time.
What's her beef, man? Wilma's super excitable right now. Usually a very, very sweet dog. One of my favorite. She's number 3 on my list.
I think there's another dog outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she's protecting us.
All right. So you were kiteboarding.
So I was
120
kiteboarding
days.
like 120 to 180 days a year.
Mm-hmm.
But Surfside started. I was working 60 to 80 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't do anything but work, pretty much. And I was getting a little soft around the edges.
Right.
The belly was starting to get bigger and bigger. I was starting to look pregnant. And she was like, oh, why don't you go to CrossFit? You might like it. And I stopped going to the gym when I started kiteboarding like 8 years ago.
Okay.
I basically said like, I'm not lifting weights. This is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I tried to do a couple workouts in that period of time and I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't. I just couldn't.
A couple CrossFit workouts?
No, regular, like go to the gym and
see, I can never do that. I never do that.
I couldn't get into it. And I did for a long time, but I just couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So she kept bugging me and I said, fine. So this was not November of 18, November of 17.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, fine, I'll go once daylight saving hits because then there was no chance of me being able to kiteboard after work. So whatever. And I went and I started going 3 days a week and it was really hard. I remember like my second workout, like we were doing jump rope and I hadn't jumped rope in years and I could barely do it. And I had these shorts on that didn't tie and they kept falling down. And then I like was almost about to pass out, like literally. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you're the new guy, don't pass out. You're the new guy, don't pass out. That was my second class, But I like felt pretty good and it was like, it felt good to be moving because I am an active person.
Right.
And then so I got kind of regular with 3 days a week and then I did the math and 3 days a week was kind of expensive.
What do you mean? You were paying
the membership? Yeah, because you pay, I had an unlimited membership.
So if you divide it by how many days a week you go.
Correct. So the more you go, the cheaper it is. Right. So then I figured out if I go 5 days a week, it's only $7.50 a class.
Right.
I mean, you can't go in and out of Wawa for $7.50.
Not if you're smoking cigarettes.
Even if you are. I mean, if you think about it, like, McDonald's to get a Happy Meal is $7. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, all right, well, I'm pretty thrifty. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go 5 days a week. And I just got into it. And then I actually, like shortly after I learned that it actually is a sport. It's not like lifting weights.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about health and it's about sport. Mm-hmm. So everything is scalable. When I say scalable, like if the weight is 100 pounds and you can't lift 100 pounds, then you would do 75. But if you can't do 75, then you would do 50 and whatever.
Right.
You scale it appropriately.
Right.
If you have an elbow issue and you can't do that exact workout because of your elbow, then the coach, that's why there's a coach in the class, they help you modify to a similar workout that would not hurt you. My buddy Andy started around that same time, and we have the same build. And so we log our times or our weights or whatever, and there's this whiteboard, so you can track your progress is really what it's for. But it also ranks you right throughout that workout.
So it's competitive.
It's very competitive.
Right.
They say it's and for some people it's not. I mean, like
some people don't give a shit about the
like
scoreboard.
Jared, who works for Surfside, is a monster in the gym, but he barely ever logs his stuff.
Right.
Nick, logs his stuff 50% of the time.
Right.
I log my stuff every day.
Yeah, I thought so.
Every day.
I could have guessed that.
So it's like one of those things. Like, so we did a very, very aggressive workout last Saturday. Very aggressive. It's a workout called Murph. It's
yeah, I've seen you guys posting that stuff.
Yeah, it's
online.
It's abnormally hard CrossFit workout. So I'm going to say what the workout is, so don't panic. But it's a 1 mile run, and then you would do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats.
And I probably couldn't do 10
and then
pull-ups,
another mile
or even
run.
like 5 or 3.
So
2.
check this out. So
this is
what's super cool about tracking your progress.
Right.
So last year I did Murph for the first time.
Okay.
I finished in 49 minutes and 30 something seconds.
Okay.
150 of the push-ups were on my knees. Right. And like, so here's the thing, like guys don't want to like humble themselves. What guy wants to be like in a room with a bunch of guys and girls doing push-ups on their knees?
Right.
Nobody. So you get humble, right? And you do the push-ups, and I did 150 on my knees, but I finished. And my goal was to finish the workout under an hour.
All right. So you got it.
So I got it. So we did it last Saturday, and I finished the workout in 48 minutes and 14 seconds. So I knocked an hour or a minute and 15 off, which is good. But I did all 200 push-ups regular.
Oh, okay.
Which is like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big improvement over a year too.
So big props to Nick, who works for us, so Nick had 2 buddies who own CrossFit gyms for years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for years. And they were always pushing him to do CrossFit. And he was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Because, folks who get into CrossFit get very excited about it because it is very... there's like there's like it's just like AA or NA. It's like the camaraderie.
Yeah,
like
same thing with any other type of gym people. Like the jiu-jitsu gyms are like that too.
Yeah, very, very, very fellowship oriented, which is why it's really good for recovery, and people are pretty healthy for the most part.
Right.
And so Nick did Murph this weekend with us. 4 of us did it this weekend. I think his time was like 54 minutes. It was like the first time he ever did it. He did a bunch of the push-ups on his knees, I believe. But the cool thing about it is Nick did all of the pull-ups, 100. Nick could not do one pull-up 4 months ago.
Really? And he did 100 in a row?
He did 100 in 4 months. That's 4 months of going 5 days a week.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And really putting in the work. That is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, he looks great too.
Insane. Yeah. And we looked at a picture of him from October from the Hustle for Henny.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's like, I mean, think of some of the guys you've watched go to the gym over and over and over and over and over, and nothing has changed.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys who blow up too, though.
In the big picture, like when you really look at like Nick has changed more than anybody.
He's been consistent.
He's been consistent. There's a lot of guys who are consistent.
Right.
But to really see that type of progress is, it's so people get really enthused about it, and it's fun. And, so now there's like a couple of us that, they sent me a workout the other day, last night. 3 of us are in a little text, group, and they sent a workout, and I was like, oh, let's go do it. And of course I went and did it, and none of them did it. And, so it's fun to like
stay moving.
Yeah. And
it's important.
And have that,
Yeah. I think, no matter.
So Brian's going to come and he'll report back.
Yeah. Okay. I think the important thing, the big takeaways is you have to do something, whatever it is. You got to find what you like. You got to have fun doing something. So just, try a bunch of different stuff and figure out what you like or don't like. And it's okay not to like stuff too. Like, I did the jiu-jitsu thing for a little while and it just wasn't really for me. but I gave it a good shot, you know?
You gave it a valid shot.
Yeah, I gave it a good shot. And I've been toying with the idea of going back. I'm actually doing a video shoot at that gym later today. So keep on the look for that. It's a plug for 609 Jiu-Jitsu. They're a really, really good gym. Great people, great coaches and stuff in there too. Do you have anything else to add on fun and recovery? Or should we wrap?
That was supposed to be 15 minutes.
I know. Yeah, we doubled it. It was 30 minutes. You got on this. We started talking about CrossFit and it was over. If you haven't done so yet, please follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Stay tuned on our YouTube. And as always, please keep the comments coming, the topics coming, and anything like that. So we'll see you on the next episode.